Lesson overview for Chemical Reactions Unit, Lesson 1.2, A Water Mystery in Westfield. So in this lesson, we communicate ideas about the importance of clean water and investigate by observing the properties of 3 different substances. We figure out that the properties can be different for different substances and that not all properties can be observed on a macro scale, which shows scale, proportion, and quantity. So in blue, the communicate ideas and investigate are practices, things that scientists do regularly. In orange, the properties can be different for different substances and that not all properties can be observed on a macro scale is information that we learn from chemistry, and properties are traits of materials. So anything around you that you see is made up of stuff, and that stuff can be smaller than the eye can see. So you can look at something big with your eyes and then understand it better if you learn that the material is made of smaller particles. You might know them as atoms and molecules. And that scale, proportion, and quantity is something we find throughout the universe and helps us understand and make better models of what's going on around us. Step-by-step plan. In step 1, complete the warm-up. Hand that in. As you move on to step 2, before you get to step 2, there is a video to watch. Had we been in class together, we would have watched it together. But go to Lesson Brief in the digital resources, watch the video Using Chemistry to Keep Water Safe. It's a short video that introduces you to the ideas and the tools we'll be using throughout the unit. Step 2, you do need to go back to Lesson Brief again to view the projections. The teacher would project them for you in class, but you're going to have to take a look at them on your own. What I do ask that you notice that the well water was not reddish brown, but did contain fertilizer, and that'll make sense when you look at projection page number 1. And the neighborhood house water was reddish brown. And then move on to the next pages and review the 3 claims provided. They will be following us along in this unit, and we'll be deciding which of these claims best answers the question. In step 3, since you're at home and you do not have access to the samples in step 3, which is a hands-on lab, you'll view a video provided from another classroom that has done this and provided, we were able to find the samples, photos online, and the instructor goes over some information there that'll basically walk you through this step and lesson 1.3. So we'll post that video for you to help you through the rest of the way. Unit question. The big idea from Chemical Reactions Unit is, how do new substances form? To answer that question, we're going to take on a smaller question in the beginning, and that is, what is the reddish brown substance in the water? Amplify Science Chemical Reactions Unit, Chapter 1, Lesson 1.2, A Water Mystery in Westfield. We're here in the lesson brief, always reminding ourselves that digital resources for this lesson can be found on the right half of the screen. We go into the warm-up. You are presented with an image, and again, these images come from the projections you'll see in step 2 of this lesson. So what we have is well water on the left and neighborhood water on the right. So clean water and dirty water. Keep these images in mind after you answer the warm-up question, because you might want to refer back to them in the following steps. If you were in classroom, the teacher would present the video Using Chemistry to Keep Water Safe. Again, remind you to go back to the lesson brief at home to view that video, and you'll find it on the right side. And then we're about to take a look at some projections, which, since I'm here, I'll show you are found in the digital resources as well. But for step 2, we need to look at the projections. We get a memo from Dr. Jung, lead chemist in Westfield. So last week, we received a call from Alexa Anderson, a resident at Westfield. You're going to continue to read through the memo and then move on to step 2 to examine some claims. I'm going to open up those projections from the teacher screen. Again, you go back to the lesson brief. And here is the first screen you need to look at. Notice we've got the well in the middle, and that is where the clean water sample was taken from. If you go back to the warm-up and look at imagine the clean glass, that might be a sample that comes from the well. And then the dirty water side is very reddish brown. The neighborhood houses of Westfield had this reddish brown substance coming out of the tap. Imagine turning on the shower or the bathtub or the sink to brush your teeth, and this water comes out. But also notice that she did find some fertilizer, so that might be something you keep in mind as you go on. And as we saw on the screen that we just left, there are projections that show claim 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to close those because you have claim 1, 2, and 3 presented on your screen as a student as well. So get your pick. You can look at it here or in the projection. In step 3, you don't have access to the chemicals. We'll be looking at, you would be looking at some iron oxide, some iron filings, sodium nitrate. This would be goggles and safety guidelines type of lab. You can look over them if you want to remind you what's going on. But and then you'd be observing substances and answering questions. We're going to put a link of a teacher going over this lesson from a different classroom on our Google Classroom, and you can watch that video, and as you do, you can come back and answer these questions based on what you see with that teacher. And then in the third screen, you are introduced to the term property, or something that can be observed about a substance, such as color, smell, or boiling point. So you have a new vocabulary word for the chapter and the unit. And that concludes lesson 1.2.